Hey there, strategic authorpreneurs. I'm Crystal Hunt.
And I'm Michela Mitrani. We are here to help you save time, money, and energy as you level up your writing career.
Welcome to episode 32 of the Strategic Authorpreneur podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you can organize a promo push for your books. So we'll talk a bit about what that is, how do you go about organizing one, how do you track your results and see if it was worth it, and then how do you use that information to go on and plan something even better for the next go round. First though, quick shout out. We are hoping that you're really finding the podcast helpful. And if you are, we have set up a handy new button. You can click it and buy us a coffee, which basically means you can contribute a little bit towards the costs of keeping the podcast produced and distributed and all of that good stuff coming your way with no ads in it. That is our goal. So if you're willing to buy us a coffee to say thanks for hosting the podcast, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/SAP podcast, all caps, all one word, and you should find us there. Or you can visit the show notes or the Strategic Authorpreneur website, and there's a handy little button with a yellow cup of coffee in the sidebar that you can just click and it will take you right there. It's pretty cool tech. So what have we been working on besides the Buy Me a Coffee button this week?
I'm actually so excited to speak about today's book, Crystal. This is something that I wanted to read for a very long time, and I'm going to get in a second on what I've been up to. But again, this deserves the prime spot. So the book of the day for you folks that can see this on YouTube is Take Off Your Pants, and it's like Outline Your Books for Faster, Better Writing by Libby Hawker. And this super small book is really, I think, one of the best books on planning, if you will, that I've read. Without taking anything out of the others, I found this to be very to the point, very straightforward. And I actually read it twice. And it's the very first time that I basically took the time to take everything that I underlined and put it in a file for my reference in the future. It's really that good. And it's basically, long story short, if you've ever read like Save the Cat, it's like the approach is kind of similar in that regard, but I found it a bit more straightforward. And I actually tried this approach. I don't think I'm quite yet there, meaning that I'm not being able to use it yet. I'm still a pantser, more than 50% of the way. But really, it is that good. And it's super simple to follow. I think like you can finish it in one sitting, 100%. Again, take off your pants, outline your books for faster, better writing. Is really, really that good. So that's why I wanted to take time to recommend you this book by Libby Hawker. And regarding Michela Mitrani, what he's been up to, keeping data straight. Today we are going to talk about one subject that I really like, and in the past few weeks, the possibility to actually test it. But as we will talk about that with like relaunching some things, numbers and data are really king, or maybe the king and the queen of the duo, and it's that much important. So that's why I'm basically organizing spreadsheets and that kind of stuff, because I want to make sure that every single time there is a publication or a promo push, I have the numbers that I can understand how that publication or promo launch went. So I'm very much in keeping data straight, period. And I'm doing this on the side of the writing, of course, because I always have my 5x20 challenge in the background. So I'm super excited to talk about today's theme. But before that, I want to know, Krista, what have you been up to?
Well, I am working on the Full-Time Author book, which is a nonfiction book in the Creative Academy Guides for Writers series. And I am co-authoring that one with Eileen Cook. So we have been working together to make you basically a giant manual that has how do you build a career out of your writing. So it's not just how do you build the business side, or how do you sell your next book, or how do you find an agent. It's kind of this interesting mashup of building a career over time that covers all different areas of things, and how do you do it in a sustainable way that is customized to work for you. So that has been really interesting as we work together to write that, just looking at, there's options for indies, there's options for traditionally published folks, there's options for hybrid, and really causing us to examine our own writing careers and how we want things to go forward. So that has been an interesting kind of poking at me in the background to re-examine how I do things and setting things up for the next 15 years of my writing career. And at the same time, I've been planning the holiday promotional activities and booking things for fall promos. So Michaela and I are both very on topic this week with what we're working on and what we are talking to you guys about. So that has been a really good way to just dig into that stuff and see how is that going to work. And teaching a masterclass this week as well on taking control of your online author profiles. So that all kind of sent me down this rabbit hole of learning, which was not so much based on books this week, but I watched several documentaries or docudramas actually on Netflix. So I watched one called The Social Dilemma, which is about social media and its impact on our mental health and the ways that social media kind of controls our behavior and things like that. So from a psychological perspective, very interesting. And from the perspective of building an author business plan and an author career and a lifestyle that you want to maintain over time, it's been just an interesting thing to think about as I try to decide how much do I want to be on social media, if at all? How do I want that to fit into my business model? Where do I want to connect with people? And really looking at, my 80-20 alignment, or how I choose my priorities. Where's the 20% of activities that are going to get me the 80% of return on that time invested? And really analyzing how does social media fit into all of that? And where do I want to really connect with the people who are reading my books? So that is really what I was up to. I watched a couple additional documentaries as well. I watched The Greatest Hack, which is about how social media is used to kind of control voting and our beliefs and our behaviors and all of those things. And I also watched one called The Minimalists, because part of creating the ability to have a sustainable writer career is actually minimizing some of your expenses and expenditures, and shrinking things down to really just what you need means that you have to make a lot less to be able to be a full-time author. And so looking at how do you move that dial? So that all very interesting watches, a lot to think about, a lot to process, and just reflecting on what that author career will look like moving forward and trying to build that in as sustainable a fashion as possible. So all about priorities and how those work. So let's shift over. We're going to talk about our promotional push organization stuff. Michele, do you want to dive in and just do maybe a little case study recap for us of what it looked like to organize a promo push, because you just did one of these, and what are some of the steps involved?
Absolutely. I love that. I think one of the first things that we have to ask ourselves is first, what's a promo push, and then when it makes sense to make one. So as Krista was saying, I had the privilege of organizing one. I'm not using the word privilege because really it is that. It's the possibility for you to launch again your book, or to just push more sales in a specific time frame. That's what basically a promo push is. When does it make sense? I think it makes sense in a couple of different instances. One of those instances is when you're basically seeing numbers languishing, going down sales-wise, that does make sense. But also if you are at a different point in your author career, let's say that you now have a trilogy, but the first time you really released and pushed the title, there were maybe 2 books or 1 book, then makes sense then to release to make a promo push of the first, second, and third book. And there are a number of different strategies on how to do that, depending if you have a standalone or a trilogy, or if you have 6 books or 8. We're going to dive in on that a bit more, but this is, I think, the most important thing to consider, Krista. It is, why am I doing that when it makes sense? And what it is basically, it's you trying to sell a bunch of books at the same time in a specific time frame. And again, Krista was mentioning my experience. And what I did now a few weeks ago, 1 year ago, it was 1 year and a few months ago, I published Lord of Time, which was my first book written directly in English for the Anglo-Saxon market. Now, that book was published for the first time on August 2019. So we're talking about around 1 year ago. And I decided for the 1 year anniversary, I wanted to do promo push, a book promo push. So I decided to organizing one. The first problem is that really I never ever had organized one of these book promo push in a meaningful way. Meaningful. And I'm gonna explain to you why I'm saying meaningful. When I hint at the word meaningful, I'm saying sitting down for a couple of weeks, even more, and really understanding what do you want from this book promo push, because there are a number of things you can get. Do you want visibility? Do you want velocity and volume in sales? Do you want maybe to garner as much newsletter subscribers as you can? Do you want to push one book for free to get the second and the third of the series to be bought? What do you want to do? And my answer to that question was, I just want to see what happens when I do my first book promo push. So I was just curious to see basically how that would happen. But at the same time, my objective was, of course, to sell as many books as I could, and at the same time to learn as much as possible on the process. So when does organizing a promo push make sense? For me, it was the 1 year anniversary that like triggered that. I wanted to see, it was an excuse. Let's call it an excuse for me to try that. So there was no like strategic date attached to that. It was just plain curiosity. But one thing that I want to say before passing the ball to Crystal is that it really taught me a number of things. And one of the things that I think resonated the most with me was it's not as much important how many books you are selling in that time frame, is the amount of experience you are getting off the experience of the book promo push. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it's basically, it's like I paid the university and I basically enrolled in a course how to make a book promo push. And I've learned a number of things. So the cost for that book promo push was like the cost for this university invented course. I've learned a number of things, and we're going to talk about that a bit more. But before doing that, I just wanted to ask you, Krista, if there is any other instances for you when organizing a promo push makes sense, and if yes, which one are those?
Yes, there are a couple situations where I would use an organized promo scenario. So one common choice is to do that when you're about to release a new book. So if I have let's say it's book 5 in the series that's going to be a new release, I would organize a bunch of promo around the older books in the series, building up to that launch, so that when my book goes live, there's as many people as possible who are hitting the point of read through to be downloading it. If my author rank is pushed up and I am more visible on a sales platform, it's going to mean more people are finding that new release. And it also just helps generate some additional revenue and breathe some life into the earlier books in your series, which are all good things. So for me, often it is around a specific new launch in that series. Sometimes it's actually calendar based. So I have a lot of holiday romances, and I have one book maybe that is actually happens right around Valentine's Day, and I tend to organize a promo around Valentine's Day. I have some books that have a touch of magic, and so there's a little bit of witchy action going on there, and so I will organize a promo around Halloween. And so you can do themed holiday-based promos as well. And some people just do one every 3 months as part of their allotment or allowance in the KDP program, where you can, if you're in KDP Select, you can choose 5 discounted days or 7 free ones. Or do I have that backwards? I think I have that backwards.
Yeah, it's basically 5 days if it's you want it to free, and 7 if it's a countdown deal, and max.
Okay, so yeah, other way around. So yes, anyway, you get one or the other every 3 months inside the KDP Select program. So you are able to offer discounts. A lot of people will also set up a big promo campaign if they are going to have a Bookbub feature deal, because one of the things about organizing a promotion is you want to try and create either a sustained kind of flat line of good sales over the longest possible period, or you want to have an continually going up kind of a pattern on your book sales. And so what will happen if you just have a Bookbub feature deal as a giant spike in the middle of that and nothing else around it, the algorithms are not overly fond of that. They prefer to support consistent and sustained growth over time. And so you want to make sure, if you're getting a Bookbub deal or something like that, that you are planning some other promotional activities around that. And so it can be a good time to make sure you have organized some other promo sites to be sending out in addition to Bookbub, so that you can basically maximize on all of that. Another time when you might do that is if you are taking a run at being on a USA Today bestseller list. You are going to need to sell as many books as you possibly can inside of a 7-day period, and you need to be wide. So that's something to notice. You actually can't become a USA Today bestseller if you are KDP exclusive. So just be aware of that when you're organizing your promotions. But a lot of people will organize a run at the USA Today bestseller list around getting a Bookbub feature deal, and then throwing everything they have at organizing a big, sustained but concise marketing period, where they will have 1 week where they just throw everything they can, ads wise and promo wise, at getting as many readers as possible to download usually a heavily discounted book during a specific week-long period, so that they can try to hit that list. Now, what should you check for when you're trying to schedule a promo?
Actually, so many things. Too many things. So I want you to think of this as like a kind of a chessboard, and the way you arrange your pieces is going to depend on your strategy and on what you want to do and how you want to, like, let's say, beat your opponent. So again, my first time, my objective was to learn, which is not, if you think about that, a really specific goal, but you will be served well if you have that goal in line and in mind. And this is basically referring to what we were saying before, when it makes sense to organize a promo push. What's your goal? What do you want to get out of this? But once you figure that out, how do you really go about and organizing it. So the way I did it was by sitting down and using a Google spreadsheet, basically, and trying and realizing which timing-wise I was going to use for this promo push. Was going to be 3 days, 5 days, 14 days, 7 days. The choice was at the end landed on the 7 days. And I'm going to explain you why 7 days and not 14 or 2. Once you decide the date, you also have to check to make sure that there are no conflict if you are booking a promo site, for example, with a particular date. So let's say that you have organized a Kindle countdown deal, but for some reason you have started that promo deal on September the 5th, when actually that promo runs and starts from September the 4th at the specific time frame. Some of these book promo sites will remove your book if they check and your book is not discounted by that time. So that is why it's that important for you to choose a date, take the calendar if you are an old-fashioned guy like myself, like a paper one, and realize, okay, so this is what I want to do on September the 5th, this is what I'm going to do on September the 9th, and decide according to your plan. But organizing a promo push, it's so much more than that. I basically told you about me organizing it with the Google spreadsheet, but also Excel. And the reason why I did that was because I'm a kind of a visual kind of person. So I need to see the stuff in order to understand where I'm going and where I'm at. I can't do that things from the top of my head. I need to see that. And so what I did was like, okay, I want to do this promo for 7 days. And 7 days is because I decided to do a Kindle countdown deal for 7 days, which is basically the maximum allotted amount of time Amazon gives you if you are enrolled in Amazon KDP Select to promote your book. The second question was like, okay, I know the week and I know the time frame. How much is it going to be my book discounted for? So it was $3.99. I decided, okay, I want to make this a no-brainer to anybody. So I want to place it as $0.99. So really, it's like an impulsive buy almost. And so I did that because my decision was based on no-brainer. They don't have to think about that. They just need to click. And also because I'm a virtually unknown person. And so giving them the possibility to discover my writing was for me enough if they just bought the book. The beautiful thing of making this choice is that once you have them in front of you, you can then organize how exactly you are going to direct the traffic on every single day. So the way I promoted my book on the first day, it's completely different from the way I promoted it on day 6 and 7, completely. It seems like a completely different kind of book even. And we're going to talk about that a bit later on, because before going over there, I wanted to ask Krista, because you brainwashed me into using Excel and Google Sheet way more, that those are important. But you always seems to be like a step ahead of me on the organization tool kind of thing. So I'm sure you might have something more to say before we move on about organizing actually the promo push and choosing the date. What would you do?
Yes. So the first thing I did, of course, was make a spreadsheet. So I always use my calendar program and a spreadsheet to plan all of these things. Now, lucky for you, I know everybody does not have the same passion for organization that I do, but we have put in the show notes the link to the spreadsheet template that you can actually use to plan your promo and to track all of your results and all of your submissions and everything else to the sites that you're applying to be part of. So check the show notes, download the resource, and then you can customize it to fit your own personal needs. But that is a really helpful place to start. You are going to make a lot of different decisions during this planning process, and you're going to have a lot of moving pieces to track, and you're going to have some things that you need to keep track of date-wise. And so it's really important to make sure that you do have it all written down. It only takes you forgetting one little piece to make it all not count for anything. And so it's really important. You don't want to waste your money, and you want to get the maximum bang for your buck that you can. And so that's one of the ways to do it, is by staying organized. But what you have to do first is decide, what kind of a promo are you going to do? Are you going to offer your book for free? Are you going to offer your book for 99 cents or $2.99 if it's a box set or a longer book or a nonfiction? The price points are all a little bit different. And how do you decide which is the better option? Well, one of the things that you can use to decide is looking at, what are your goals? Are you doing it to build revenue from that specific book that you are selling? If that's the case, then you probably don't want to do a free promo if there's nothing else for them to read and buy after they finish that one, because you won't actually earn any money off that. So that is a different proposition. If it is the first book in a series and your goal is to attract new readers to your series that will hopefully buy book 2 and 3 and book 17 eventually, then you may want to do a perma-free or do a free promotion as your primary focus. One thing I have to say I have noticed after following a number of promo sites and also doing a number of promos myself is that you get way more uptake when it is a free book. So if what you're looking for is volume of new eyeballs and new readers into your book series, then doing a free promo is definitely the way to go. If you are running a promo to try and get a whole bunch of people to read your book and to get some reviews, then you probably want to run a free promo, because what you need is people who don't know you to go ahead and get the books, right? And they aren't going to take a chance on somebody they don't know for those higher price points, which it sounds ridiculous to refer to 99 cents as a higher price point. But when you are on a deal site where everything is either free or 99 cents, the 99 cents ones are expensive. And what that means is that people are going to scan through the deal email, they're going to download all the freebies, and often they just don't get to the ones that they have to purchase, because you get an email every day from most of these sites, and you can download dozens of free books a day. So really, if what you're looking for is free books, you're not as likely to choose the purchasing option. And so I have always found, effectiveness-wise, because I have a series, that doing the free push was much more effective, and combining it with either a new release, which was at a more regular price, or combining it with a discounted price across the series, which is bringing me to something else that's very relevant, which is there is a relatively new, I mean, it's been around for a couple of years, but a lot of people didn't know it existed, and I've actually not tried it yet, so I'm excited to take it for a spin. But David Cochran, in his course Starting from Zero, does a great job of breaking down how to organize a promo, which is using the series promo functionality that some sites are offering, which is where you can promote an entire series. So if you have, let's say, multiple books, let's say you've got 5 books in your series. Book 5 is going to be a new release. Maybe books 2, 3, and 4 are discounted, and book 1 is maybe perma-free or on for free for a couple of days. You can actually push traffic to your series page, and people can grab your entire series at once, which is effective for a number of reasons. One being, there aren't 297 ads for other people's projects on your series page, so that is attractive from an attention-keeping standpoint. And also, if people buy a bunch of the books in your series at once, they're much more likely to read through the books and not just leave them languishing on their reading device with a whole bunch of other things that they downloaded for free and may never get around to. because what we all know is we want them to read our books, but even more, we want them to join our mailing list from the link at the back of one of the books that they loved. And we want them to leave a review on the books that they loved. And people will not take those actions if they never get to the point of actually reading them. So if you can convince them to buy more than one at once, then your chances of making that work for you are much better. One of my favorite strategies for doing this is actually doesn't even require a promo site. You can do it just using your own mailing list. And I have what I call Complete Your Collection Week a couple of times a year, where I make all of my books 99 cents, usually before I bring out a new release. So I'll make everything 99 cents and I'll say, okay, if you're missing anything in the series, grab it now. And then people can buy what they're missing for 99 cents. Then I do a little follow-up a couple weeks later that's saying, hey, if you grabbed some new books and you liked them, you could leave a review over here. And then I organize a promo site push around the new release time once I've boosted up all the reviews on my books and I have everything just the way I want it. Because what you will learn very quickly is that if you don't have a lot of good reviews on your books yet, if you've got a new title that doesn't have too many reviews, you either won't get accepted by the promo site, because a lot of them require a minimum of 10 to 20 4.5 or 4 or 4.5 star reviews as kind of a starting place. You just won't get accepted if you don't have those. And even if you do get accepted, people won't really click and buy your stuff if they don't have that social proof that says a lot of other people liked it. So just be aware that before you are ready for a promo, you need to make sure you have maximized your sales process. So your blurb needs to be on point. Your cover needs to be excellent and on genre and ready to convert people to click through and check out what your story is all about. And you really need to make sure that those reviews are there and solid. Now, let's say I have all that in place. I've got my reviews, I'm feeling good about everything, I'm feeling ready to go. How do I find sites? How do I even know where to submit to and which ones are good?
So there are a couple of things you can potentially do. One of those things is, what I do is following the people that suggest the best site because they try them. So there are a couple of gentlemen that we have mentioned more than once, like David Gogren and Nicholas Eric. Both, they have sections on their website where they keep constantly a list of promo sites that they tried, and they keep it updated. So when I had to organize my promo, I went there and I was trying to see which one of these promo sites would work with, for me. This is one of the way you can find it. Another way you can find it, like if you can go on a forum or Facebook group and ask around, just ask other people, look, there is this book Barbarian. I never heard of it, but I know that you write fantasy. Have you ever used it? And actually, you're going to get a lot of different kind of answers. And I would say from the average down of that answer, you will get a pretty good idea on how many downloads you could expect at a particular price range that you have that book. Don't trust too much, I would say, what they say, this promo site on their website, because it's not always true. And I can say that because I experienced it a couple of times. So go on your peers, ask them what they thought of that particular promo sites, because one of the other things that changes very fast, except for Bookbub probably, is that these promo sites efficiency, it changes on a weekly to month basis. So what worked like 5 months ago doesn't work that well today. Again, with the exception of the King. That seems to work every single time. At least you're gonna break even with that. That's basically the vibe that I got from the people that I ask. So it's basically boil it down. Again, do your homework. But I would definitely say go over a website like the David Gogren one and the Nicholas Eric one, because these guys, they keep those lists updated. Ask around, The third thing, and this one is the one that's going to be a bit more expensive, but it's also the most important for you, is to try. So once you have gathered all the data, you just have to pull the plug. You have to try it. You have to see how it goes. And so I did that, and I now know with data in my hands which one of these promo sites worked for this particular book that was Lord of Time in my case. You will never know 100% before. Never, ever. And another thing you will not know is that maybe something happened in the week you booked your promo site. Maybe, I don't know, for example, the forest in Los Angeles burned down, or something like different it's happening, and so it gets the attention of people. Those things you can't control. What you can control is the data gathering and also the asking bit. And I would say, for me, these three are the three main sources of reliable way of finding promo sites. Do you have any more of those, Krista?
Yeah, I think there's a couple more really good breakdown articles that just list a whole bunch of options. So be sure to check the show notes. We'll put links to the best ones that we refer to ourselves. I think it's really important to always go for the most genre specific options that you can. You know, you're really trying to be conscious of what are you doing to your also bots when something gets sent out to a whole ton of people, right? You want to make sure that it's a relevant audience. The closer the match is, the more likely you are to sell enough books or to give away enough books to really make that worthwhile for you. We did gather up a whole bunch of different promo sites and put them into the planning spreadsheet for you. So one of those pages in that sheet is a huge list of potentials, but go through them. They are not in order of preference. You need to go through and pick out the ones that you think are the best fit for you. The prices for the promo sites range a lot. So I think that's something to really think about as you're committing, is what is your budget for your promotion? And what are your goals in terms of number of people that you want to reach? You might want to test with some of the lower priced ones before you send out to one of the larger ones to make sure that your cover and your blurbs and your number of reviews is actually converting to sales. Some cost is, well, some are free. If you have a free book, some don't charge you at all to be included. You just have to apply sometimes a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even a month or two beforehand. So you do need to do a bit of planning in advance. But for the ones that you're going to pay for, you know, you might want to do one of the ones where it costs $5 or $10 first before you build up to some of the more expensive. There are lots that are in the sort of $40 to $100 range. And then of course there is Bookbub, which is sort of I'll call her the queen of the book promo world. And it might cost, depending on your category, as much as $600 to $1,200 to be featured as a feature deal, and those are for free. The good thing is there is a chart on the Bookbub feature deals that actually tells you exactly how many readers are in that subcategory. You can choose which markets you are applying for, and you can see what the average number of downloads is for a free title or a 99-cent deal in your category. And that will really help you to figure out, you know, how would your book do and how much could you expect to make back and how all of that works. But you do have to submit to Bookbub. There are lots of rules about how you go about doing that and when. And I think most authors talk about being rejected about 40 times for every time that they're accepted. So do not be heartbroken if you do not get this on your first try. You can resubmit, I think, once a month. And assuming you have gone through and made sure you actually fit the criteria, then you should be applying on the regular, assuming that that is part of your strategy until your moment arrives. Now, how many should you use? How many of these different sites should you include in a promo? Kayleigh, what are your thoughts on?
I would say for my specific case, immediately when I decided to design this promo was I needed to have a budget. So for me, that was the I think the best thing that I did, because like with that number in place, after that I can start taking decisions. So my budget in this case was very small, just 200 Canadian dollars, and I couldn't go over that. The number that I use it is just, I didn't use it on top of my head. It's just exactly the same number that I spent 1 year before. That was the decision. I want to spend exactly as much to see if there would have been a difference in revenue and in downloads. And that was useful because then at the end I could actually do a sort of a A/B testing, not perfect, of course, but something that gave me an idea of how that would work in a bigger scale. So this is, I would say, something that it's important for you to consider. There is no right number. It's just what you can afford at the particular time in your career. And I would say when you are organizing this promo, the maximum thing that you can do is an educated guess. You will never know for sure how many downloads you will have. So one of the other things that kind of saved me was remind me my yearly mantra, which is over there, even written on my whiteboard, had 0 expectations. And I think this was especially true with the promo, because I was expecting like more download than the first time. It actually turned out to be a bit less, but I made a bit more. So not having expectation, or at least we're human, we always have expectations, but have less expectation helped me keep my mind cool. So when I started seeing, okay, this is not exactly what I expect, but it's fine, because I should remember that I can't control the number of downloads. You can just control how many book sites you, of course, apply to and how many of them they accept. And then you can spread them out in that week or 5 days or 3 days. But to answer Crystal question, how many you should submit to? Again, I stick to my previous answer, as many as you need. In my case, I booked over on half a dozen promo sites because that's what I could afford. But that doesn't mean that my promo effort ended with that. I use the promo site as one tool. Then I use them in combination with other things, like, for example, my Facebook page, my newsletter, and forum and writers group that I was part of. So I created and integrated the promo push, and the traffic came from, I would say, 4 or 5 different venues, not only the promo push. And actually, one of the most beautiful things was seeing that most of my downloads didn't come from the book sites at all. It came from the newsletter at the time that I wanted them to come. And I showed Krista my backend dashboard. One of my strategy was from day one, Krista, I want to try Nicholas Eric's strategy of the increasing sales. And that was kind of awesome to see how I was able to achieve that. So if you see the snapshot of my 7 days, you will see that it's, except for the first couple of days, it's steadily increasing. And that's because I was able to direct the traffic at the moment I wanted to, because I booked the strongest promo site at the end of the book promo, and because I reminded my newsletter that the deal was about to end in the last day. So you can actually have the power to redirect the traffic when and how you want to, if you have a tool like a newsletter. We didn't discuss about that a lot, Crystal, because we already spoke about newsletter a number of times before, but I just wanted to say that was maybe one of the best teaching that I had from this experience. Your newsletter, it's still the most important asset when it comes to making sure that your people know when do they have to buy that book. And why am I saying all of this to you now? You will recall that I said that I was curious to see this promo push, how it will go. And the reason was because I was trying to check this strategy by Nicholas Eric. And actually, I saw that working in a way I didn't realize possible. One of the things that happened compared to 1 year ago is that thanks to this strategy, I was able to get Lord of Time on a higher chart position than 1 year ago, even though, as you know, when you just publish a book, you have more visibility thanks to the 30, 60, 90 period nine frame. I basically went over that, and I proved that if you are diligent and you do your homework and you use that tactic, that strategy, you can actually see your book climbing up the chart. And one of the best results that I got was that with Lord of Time, this is not like a big numbers, but just because I want to illustrate with the most transparency that I can. 1 year ago with Lord of Time, I couldn't reach even the first 22,000 on Amazon US, but this time I was able to breach that wall and reach the first 19,000. Again, it's not a lot. We're talking about 20 to 22 books per day. It's basically nothing, but it's something that proves you that if you are strategic about this and if your objective is visibility, you can nail that down. And this is proved even better because on Amazon UK, I was actually able to get Lord of Time for like a day or something like that on the #1 of the Christian fantasy chart. And that's, again, something that never happened before. Again, this is not to say that it's a great achievement, but it's something I was not able to achieve 1 year ago because I was strategic about the way I stacked my promo sites, newsletter, and sources. One of the things that I actually wanted to ask you, Crystal, before I forget, I said like a couple of ways you can and should do, you should go about this promo site strategy kind of stuff. But when you go about and organize the promo push, how do you basically understand I have to do this on the 1, 2, 3, and 4? How do you keep all of this data straight without getting crazy? Because we spoke about revenues, keeping data, we spoke about traffic, about chart. It's like already 5 things and I didn't even get started. Like, I don't want to get them confused. So your job is to make their life easy.
So that's where the spreadsheet comes in, is there are columns for each day, there are sections for each day, and you can fill in all the information. What you are trying to do is achieve that stable or rising kind of curve that we talked about. And so one way to do that is by sort of making a bit of a math puzzle about what is your anticipated reach for the different channels or promo sites that you're using on each of the days. And so you are trying to balance that out a little bit. So let's say you have 4 promo sites. One says they'll get you 100,000 people, one says they'll get you 200,000, one says 300, and one says 400. You want to match those up so that you're getting roughly the same amount of reach for each of the days, right? Or if you have maybe a couple of the promo sites are much more genre specific than others, and that usually will indicate you're going to get more uptake on those ones. So you may want to put them later in your promo. And that may also help if you're trying to set your also bots. One of the things I didn't mention is one of the reasons to run a promo like this is if your also bots got kind of scrambled, maybe you released your book and you didn't even know what also bots were or why you should care, and you told all your friends and family, so now your also bots for your fantasy novel have like how to cook pasta and how to speak Italian and all of these other things in them that are not necessarily genre appropriate also bots because your friends and family love you even though they don't usually read your genre. So if you're trying to fix that and clean that up, you can use a carefully targeted promo adventure to actually try to get the right readers in enough volume to override your initial also buts, which were not going to teach Amazon who was the right audience for your book. So that's another reason why you can use it. And, you know, if you can use the spreadsheet to help you do that, to figure out which places to start with when. And I think there's a couple different ways to use these. And I have, the first time I actually did a bunch of promo, I have a perma-free first in series. Silver Bells is free and has been since like 2014, but I can still make it work for me by testing out promo sites with it. So if you're testing to see if sites are effective or not effective and how well they work for you, you probably want to do that one at a time, because if you have 2 or 3 sites scheduled for a single day, you are not going to know which sites worked for you. So if testing and data gathering is your primary purpose, you might want to schedule them as what you think will be the least effective to the most effective, because you want to be gradually building over time. But maybe you spread it over 2 or 3 weeks if you're dealing with a perma-free book, and you slowly build up that organic traffic and you just make notes. And maybe you schedule one every 2 to 3 days, because not everybody opens their email the same day, right? And then you can take notes of which ones are working for you. And then when you go to organize a big push to help with a launch or something specific, you'll have a better sense of which of those sites are a good fit for your audience and which ones resulted in how much response from your folks. So that is really helpful. Also, when you do get to the point of having a big list, you may actually want to spread out your own mailing list over time, because what I discovered when I tested all these different sites, it was very early on, so I didn't have as many reviews as I have now, and my covers were a little bit more off genre at the time. So what I found was I got decent uptake, but not huge from the promo sites. But my mailing list action was very, very good. And so that sort of skewed everything. So you may want to spread out your mailing list over time. And remember also, just because something didn't work 2 years ago or last year or even three months ago, if you have 30 more reviews now than you had when you last tried it, it might be worth giving it another shot. So don't give up if it doesn't work the way you hoped the first time. Focus on what can I learn from that experience. Make notes for yourself of exactly what happened and what you would do different next time, because you can pretty much guarantee you won't remember it clearly when it comes around to trying that again. And really just keep moving forward and keep experimenting. And if what you discover is that the promo sites don't work for you and your newsletter list is gold, then you pour all of your energy and your budget into growing your newsletter list. Okay, so resources are available at strategicauthorpreneur.com. Come visit us. Find the episode and you can download that magical spreadsheet, and you'll find links to all the resources that we talked about as always. And make sure you get yourself on our mailing list, because each week we'll send you out just one thing to help you along your journey. But before we go, we have the Curious Jar, which is sporting a fine purple ribbon now, which is a pretty serious upgrade from last time. I am going to stick my hand in here and you are going to tell me when to stop.
Okay.
Okay, blue one. Where to put the jar. All right.
Hopefully it's not an improv one.
Oh, okay. Do you believe in writer's block? That is our question for this week. Do you believe in writer's block?
I have the answer to that. My answer is no, with a capital N and O. Just spell that correctly? Yes, no. No, I never did believe that. I don't remember exactly which author said this, so I'm not gonna quote anybody, but I think this person said author's block doesn't exist. It was invented by a guy in California that didn't know how to write. I think went away, something like that. I'm not sure why from California. Maybe he didn't like folks from over there. But yeah, basically what I'm saying is I don't believe there is something like that. I do believe writing is a muscle. And I know like Krista has a bit of a different opinion on this. For me, I should say, writing for me is like it's like a training a muscle. So if I don't do that every single day, I know that I'm gonna get less fit. So, for example, yesterday I didn't write, and so I'm feeling it. I don't like it. It's a feeling I can't put a finger on it, but it's like I feel a bit more. For example, I like gym a lot, and I want to train and work out. When I don't do that, I feel like I missed out on something. But I do know that there are other people, for example, binge writers. They would write like a lot more than what I write on a daily basis, in maybe a week or in a month. So what I usually do on average, I would write 2 to 3 hours per day, consistently, always, no matter what, except for like yesterday and a few other days, or if I'm sick. But I don't believe in writer's block because there is nothing like that. Like writer's block is like, this is the pen, I can't write, but that's impossible. You can write. You can write shit. Sorry about the word, but you can still write. There is no block. Nobody is blocking you from writing. And that's something that even like the fantasy author Neil Gaiman says something similar. Like he said, like a lot of people saying, I have writer block, I can't write, what do I do? There is no such thing. You can always write something. You can write an email, you can write a Facebook post. If you have eyes and you have a hand, you can't have a writer's block. That's basically my opinion on the subject. You can have a moment in your life in which you don't have ideas or fresh ideas. That's why I like to challenge myself and write in different genre when I can and if I can. But I said that this many times in the past. At least for me, writer's block is an imagination, and it's an excuse to be lazy. Again, not talking about you, I'm talking about me. If you ever listen to me say something about writer block, in that moment, I'm being lazy. I'm not doing my work. So that's basically the answer to the question for me. What do you think, Crystal?
Well, I'm going to answer this as a psychologist. So I think that writer's block is a term we use for a syndrome of other things. It is not one thing. I think it is an easy answer for people, like you said, to point to, oh, I can't write, I have writer's block. But I think in order for that to be useful, we actually have to look at what's going on. So it may be that you have fear around finishing a project because of what that will mean in your life if you do. It may be that you are feeling stuck because you feel like you should be prioritizing other things in your life because of what society or your friends or your family tell you you're supposed to care about and be working on. It may be that you are actually physically and chemically burnt out, because burnout is a real neurological state of being. And burnout can come from other areas of our life that spills into writing. I think we shouldn't use it as a reason to feel bad and constantly harp on the fact that we're not writing, but it's an indicator that you need a break. If you are actually stuck and you are burnt out, then in order to heal, sitting there feeling bad about not doing what you think you should be doing is not how you get out of that. So I think that's something that's important to keep in mind, is that if you have had major trauma or loss or other things going on in your life and you have reached a point of clinical depression or actual chemical burnout, that you need to look at how to heal yourself first, and then you can come back to writing. But I think it is really important to be aware of it from a health perspective. If it's like, oh, you know, I've got writer's block, it's just a really good excuse to not do something, that's a little bit different from somebody who has maybe made a career of this, been doing it for years and has hit a wall, because I do think that that is a real thing. And something that we don't often talk about as writers is that you have so many parts of your creative process and so much that goes into feeding the well, there will be times when you are not actively writing, and that is okay. You don't have to be producing every single day to still be a writer. You may be in an information gathering phase. You may be in a world building phase, and that is all right. So I am the not so strict parent when it comes to this, because I don't write every day, and I don't believe that you have to write every day to be a writer. I do have like 40 books, so obviously I do get around to the writing at some point when the moment is correct. But I do think it's important for people not to spend all of their time sucking the joy out of being a creative person and feeling guilty or bad or like you're doing it wrong if your process is different from someone else's. So I do believe in things that cause us to not be able to write in particular moments. Do I believe in writer's block as the answer to all of those things? No, because I don't think it's helpful. I think it's like diagnosing somebody as sick is not useful because we don't know what caused it. We don't know how to help them. We don't know anything about what would be useful to help them move forward. But I do think it's useful to use as a conversation starter about, okay, let's dig into why you think you're stuck. Let's look at that. Is it really that you don't want to be a writer? And that's okay too. Is it really that you don't want to be a writer as a job? Because let's face it, that's just fine. You can be a writer as a hobby and love it and do it whenever you feel like it, just like picking up a knitting project. Which is different from having it as a full-time business. So it's really good to clarify exactly why you want to be a writer and what role you want to have that take in your world, in your financial situation, in your business model. But yeah, I do think it is an interesting discussion starter for sure, and guaranteed to divide every group of writers you ever throw into a room and spark all kinds of interesting discussion to find out. So your mission, should you choose to accept, is in your next writing group or when you gather with other writers online, ask them if they believe in writer's block. And we would love to hear if you believe in writer's block. So you can share your answer to the question in response to the newsletter that comes out or anywhere in the comments that you have listened to this show.
And also for show notes, links to resources that we mentioned and coupons or discounts on the tool we love, please visit us at strategicauthorpreneur.com. Also, remember that as any kind of venture from creators, we do like seeing our work reviewed. So if you can do that for our podcast in any of the platform you're listening or watching to us, we will be forever grateful.
Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on our next episode, where we'll be talking with Lyrebird developer Jose Sotelo, who is going to take us behind the scenes of our robot voice doubles, as we affectionately refer to them. So we will see you next week.
See ya.
If I'm going to bother to brush my hair, I should also put on lipstick, because really, why not?
Come on, this is gonna stay on the internet for decades. You want to be as shiny as possible.
Well, not shiny. I don't want to be shiny. That's the thing.
You want to be shining then?
Yes, shining, exactly, but not shiny. Be sure to subscribe. Sorry. Oh, here I thought the air was doing so well.
That's going on the wrong pipe.
All the smoky air is the wrong pipe. Okay. Well, I got up and I was reading about fractal productivity at like 3 a.m. So, you know,
Wow.
there was that.
That is an interesting
We'll
subject of conversation.
Uh-huh.